Hello and welcome to another Transformers Tuesday. I'm your host, Played With, and today we're going to take a look at War for Cybertron Trilogy series from Netflix, Autobot Commander, Optimus Prime. He comes in a 3-pack with Sheeldron and Enerax, two pieces that are remolds of remakes of other pieces that we've already seen from the Earthrise series. The figure itself is a heavy redeco of the Siege Optimus Prime. And you can see there's a couple of differences here. The color variations, the reds are darker, the blues are darker, and he has a few more 5mm ports, totaling in at the largest number of any figure that has come out of this series that I've gotten so far, a total of 12 5mm ports for the Siege armor line. Anyway, this figure is robust. He comes with a lot of interactivity and a lot of options to be able to play with him. His posability is very high, and he's actually quite a bit of fun. The few gripes that I have about him are few. I really like the Siege Optimus, and this one is almost as good as that for the transformation. If you've seen my other videos, you know I'm a huge fan of the transformations. The end results, I'm also a huge fan of those. Big fans of big figures, big fans of little figures, as long as they look cool, have a lot of detailing, but posability for me is always kind of on the wayside. I'm really in it for the transformation engineering behind that. Anyway, for him, he's got a couple of different options here with this guy, who winds up being a really simple transformation. His arms peg in, and his chest 5mm port flips up. Legs pop out. Let's see if I can get it. It's a little stiff. And then the back just folds up. Now, this is actually the figure for which I actually got this package. And it comes in a nice big box. Some instructions. Runs you about $40 MSRP here in the United States. And you can see he's got the old classic Mack truck look from the G1 inspired line. And here we've got Sheeldron and Enerax, and I just love the yellow coloring on these guys. Now, I'm a big fan of city modes, and I got Omega Supreme and was kind of disappointed because I didn't really think there'd be a whole lot of guys connecting them, kind of like what we saw with Trypticon, where you had to buy in for the big bases in order to be able to get them. I was really happy to see a lot of these little figures and the characters like Ironworks and Airwave who are going to be able to connect through. I'm looking at picking up all of them, and it's going to be probably a larger portion of my collection that I've got because I'm just such a huge fan of those. These guys are pretty simple. You know, they can't hold anything, and they've got little 3mm ports here on the sides. Their rear end can maybe hold some figures. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to be because the hollow space doesn't seem like it really does anything. There's even some detailing on the insides that you can see there, but I'm working with a new camera today, so I don't really know if this is any better than what I was showing before. But I love this figure, and I'm really glad to have him. He's a great on-ramp, and he's also a great shield. Some of the things worth mentioning about him, if you haven't gotten a chance to see the reviews for the smaller version of him, is that when he is a shield, he actually has gun posts on the side with the little 3mm blaster ports that can hook up for blast effects. Now, one of the neat things about that is that as a shield goes, you know, being able to attach blast fire effects on it for gun purposes is pretty neat. Enerax, we've seen him before. He's just a pterodactyl. That's basically what he turns into. So we fold his wings out, flip his head up by pushing this tab down, and that brings his head around. Flip that all the way up, and then we take his post and push that all the way up, and then tilt the head back down. And he's got some feet inside of here that flip down, and that's the whole transformation right there. Now again, this figure looks completely boss. You can see in the lighting that he just glows with luminescence. But the details on the face are not sparse. This figure itself has quite a bit of detailing all the way around, especially in the back. And I'm really a big fan of this as far as weaponizer goes. It reminds me a lot of the G1 minifigures that would turn into guns. This is just right in tune with that kind of stuff. It's ridiculous. It's a pterodactyl. It's an axe. And there's actually quite a bit of versatility to it. If you fold his legs up or down. You can bring his post down, and with the legs cocked all the way back, they actually look like they belong there. And with his head straight up and one of the axe blades tilted down, it almost looks like a different kind of battle axe. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a little bit of extra detail to be able to help, change things up with their variety. Anyway, let's get down to the figure. He comes with his cannon, as always, and the cannon itself will fold up to store on his back. It's got a lot of details to it as well. It's a great looking cannon. It's a great looking accessory. His hands open, and on the inside of his chest, we can pop the windows open, which it is a remold from the Siege Optimus Prime. And where his head would have folded down on the other figure, this one stores the Matrix of Leadership. Now, it does pop out, and it is a little bit difficult to get, but it's possible. And it does have some good detailing to it. It's clear plastic in the center, so it does light up. And the central cavity for it doesn't do any other transformations. It just holds the Matrix and then closes back up. The inside of the doors have detailing, and as does basically the entire rest of the figure. Now, if you look at the back, one of the things worth pointing out is that the back of his legs are the redeco of the Siege figure. And you can see sections of it where little pins have been placed in to help hold the back sections that were made to replace the back sections of the other figure in place. I played with these quite a bit in order to see if there was any posability to them, if there were any versatility to what they did to make them, do any other functions that may be secret or hidden. But the only thing that I saw is something that was added as part of the Earthrise redeco in order to be able to make his vehicle mode a little more truck-like, I guess. And these panels fold up on his legs to help, I guess, hide the leg functions for this guy, whereas the side sections flipped around and covered up the whole side of the leg sections on the Siege figure. That was pretty nice. I really, really like the Siege figure quite a bit. It's probably my favorite Optimus Prime figure. I really can't think of a different one besides the G1 version that inspires so much happiness in me. On the back section of him, he loses the backpack that the Siege version had, and I'm a big fan of that, even though I really, really like that figure. That is the one caveat, the one complaint that I have about that figure. It's pretty obvious here. You can see it. It's just quite a bit of kibble, and that's just all done away with. Now, he also loses one 5mm port, as you can see, and on the back here, the back of his legs also lose 5mm ports. But that's okay. He makes up for it by having them basically everywhere else on his body. He's got a couple here, doubles on the bottom of his feet, one here, one here. He's got one on the back, and then the hands. For the transformation, it's pretty easy. The entire cab section does actually fold up inside, but the first thing we want to do is connect the feet, get the toes pointing down. Now his whole section is going to rotate around, but before I do that, I want to get these tabbed back up. And one of the neat things about this is that on this one side, if you tab this down, he loses the 5mm port, which makes his legs look more streamlined. But if you flip it up, it looks like he's got more armor. And there's so much detailing here in this section that it actually isn't a bad look. Gaining that extra 5mm port is kind of interesting, and especially with Sheeldron, you'll be able to flip him down and show him off. But, that's up to you. Anyway, so we want to make sure that we unfold his wheels back here and rotate the grill down. Now, once we've done that, we can tilt the legs up just a little bit, and what we're going to do from there is rotate the entire cab section around. Now, on the back side, we're going to have to make sure that we take care of something that you will probably forget a few times, but I've done it. I know that it's there, and then when I'm twisting him around and things get jammed up, I look at it and I'm like, I forgot it again. It happens a lot. Take these tabs and fold them back. And this is one of the cool things about this guy, is that he has a complete midriff. he's got a filled out section, which doesn't necessarily happen on the Siege figure. That's actually made up of his wheels that fold up into his chest and hide away there. But what we've lost with the wheels folding up, we've gained with the Matrix of Leadership. That's basically a little bit of readjusting that they did on his cab section. Now, on the back, we want to flip this down, this tab right here, and that's going to hide away his head. But before we do that, we're going to come back to the front, fold his arms up, fold them up, and rotate them back so that they can get out of the way. Now, for his hands, we want to fold these down, rotate the hands in, put them away on both sides. And the opening hands and the panels here that hide his hands away, they're probably the loosest section of the figure. The hand opening can make it hard to hold the Enerax figure sometimes, but it doesn't ever seem to have a problem with holding his blaster. I'm kind of happy about that. It's got a real tight hold, but if you jostle the accessories sideways in any way, it'll open the hand and they'll start to lean forward. You won't drop them, which is kind of good, but on the other side, you kind of may have to keep an eye on him if you're going to be posing him for anything, to make sure that it just sticks. You don't want it to look kind of funky. But as we've got those back here, we're going to pop his chest up. There's two tabs that folds into, and then roll this out, roll that out, and then the entire section clicks in. Now, one of the neat things about this figure is that I found an alt mode that has a little more G1 nod to it. If you have the legs folded back down and you fold the grill down, it'll pop into place there. Fold the tabs sideways. What you can do is you can fold the tabs on the sides out here, like you're supposed to transform him, and then plug them into the tabs here and bring the arms around, and you have a G1 inspired chest look. Now, the legs are going to be reversed, and that's okay. What we're looking at there is that basically if you rotate them around, the rocker ankles are going to be pointing the wrong way. So you can't stand them like that unless you put them just vertically straight up and down. So if you do want to do that, it still has a pretty good look to it. It's not terrible, and it is much more blocky and G1 inspired. I know if you've gotten your hands on a G1 Optimus, that thing has more rectangles than all of Math. So if you're looking at this thing, this is a great alt mode to have him be able to pose in. And I'm really happy that I found it, because there's just sometimes when I want to harken back to that G1 figure that I gave to one of my cousin's kids about 8 years ago. I had a G2 version of him with the big noisemaker speaker and the big orange blasters that came out of the top. Completely ridiculous, and I loved the crap out of that toy. But, you know, she didn't have a lot of money for toys, so I just gave her everything that I had. And I didn't have a lot of room anymore for any of that stuff, and figured I'd come back to collecting sometime later in my life. And this is where I'm at. So if you're looking at this, it's a great way to have an alternate post for him to be able to pose in. Basically, we're going to go back, and you're looking at most of the rest of the transformation. So unsnap that, fold this back up, and then he has two more panels. And you just want to fold all this stuff out of the way. Basically, it's going to be real easy to get to. There's a lot of little tabs on them that you can fit your fingernails underneath. And if you're like me and you clip your fingernails on the regular, it still makes it pretty easy to get a hold of. I'm very happy about that fact, because what we've seen with a lot of the most recent Takara figures is that there's sometimes when the clearance and the tolerances are a little too tight. And if you've got short fingernails, it kind of hurts sometimes. And you just, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, collect more Transformers. I guarantee you'll get there. Anyway, so with that being said, all this stuff is up and out of the way, and we can fold this down and pop it in place. Now, his head rotates down and away, and that's also, just like the Siege figure, a pretty easy thing to do. There's a tab on the back that's going to connect here, and you just want to put your finger gently on it to balance the head base so that it can connect to where it's supposed to tab in. With the arms back, we're going to have those folded up, and we're going to rotate those in. Let me show you where that is. So these connect in here, and they kind of sit at an angle, but what's problematic about that is just the finesse of it, I guess. Because when you're connecting them, when you go to push these tabs back, like you do with the Siege one, and they connect to the arm is at an angle, and you can kind of see it pulling away there, where even if I press down on this guy, like there's sort of this like weird gap angle where it's kind of pulling up on him. And it's not a problem. And that's kind of the problem, is that I feel like I haven't finished the transformation, or that I haven't gotten things as tight as I could. And aesthetically, it bugs me. It gets under my skin, because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about what a dream the Siege Optimus is. And I'm looking at this and it's just not as tight. The shoulders are pulling up for some reason. I don't know what I'm missing, but I'm not missing anything. I've checked the instructions multiple times, and that's just the way he transforms. Now, going to the other side, we repeat this process, get him all connected up. And then with the wheels in place, we want to rotate this up, put these toes back down. And what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the tabs here on the bottom section of this armor that folded up fit underneath the arms. There is a place for them, and it helps true that problem that I'm talking about. So once we've got them here, I like to hold them in place and then just gently snap the wheels in. And then there you go. That's it. We've got our big Earthrise G1 inspired Optimus Prime. He looks slick. You can see the trailer goes full length like it's supposed to. Little gas canisters here on his legs. And the wheels look awesome. Everything rolls smoothly, actually almost robustly. And what we see with this figure is a lot of the new age inspired fitting for pieces, where if something snaps off and you accidentally get something where you are unfortunately having dropped the figure, or you let somebody else play with it and you're worried about it potentially breaking, it just pops right back in. And I love that. I love how much they've integrated the plastics of this new era with engineering designs that make it so that your toys are less likely to break. I've got a lot of broken toys that I gave to my cousin back in the day, and I'm not going to lie, both the arms on all the Jetfires I ever bought all broke off, and I've had to cobble together ones so that I have at least one complete Jetfire, and even then he's still missing quite a bit. But with these guys, it's just a dream to see how they've advanced to something that is both enjoyable in the transformation, harkens back to something that I'm very nostalgic for, grew up playing with, and had many, many hours as a kid playing make-believe scenarios of my own Cybertronian wars. And with this guy, you can pop his heels up, add blast effects to the back, make it look like he's, hauling ass. But when you go to put these guys on, this is a little bit of a problem. He doesn't really have many places that it aesthetically looks like they belong. There's a couple of spots where you can plug them in, but they also don't really seem to take very well. The 5mm ports are a little tough to put in on the sides, and they work really well when he's in robot mode, but when he's in truck mode, it just, you can't, I just don't know. He looks like he's like holding his head, getting ready to drop some beats or something. I don't know. With this guy, same kind of thing. You can put him in the back and make it look like he's got a ramp coming up or something. But once you place him anywhere else on the figure, it's just a bunch of chunky business. It's crazy. The gun itself does actually fit into the 5mm port in the center of the back, and that's what it's designated for, which is kind of nice. But it hides away really well there. It just doesn't seem like they then incorporated anything to this figure for the accessories that it comes with. It's not the first time that's going to happen. It's not going to be the last. But I would say that if you guys were thinking about getting a new Optimus Prime, I know that there are thousands of Optimus Prime options that you can pick up. This is definitely one that you should get. This is a great figure. It's a great transformation, and it adds enough variability from what we've seen between the Masterpiece figures, the lower end, smaller scale Optimus Prime figures, where basically it goes through the same engineering every single time. The arms fold up under the cab, the legs fold up in the back. They're always his back end. The shoulders and everything make up the cab every single time. It's never different. The only time I ever really saw something go wildly out of its way to be completely different were some of the early movie Transformer Optimus Primes. Those guys could get down to some funky business. And it didn't always work, but the transformations were always going to make you think. And that was kind of some of their selling points. Some of the worst looking figures in robot mode I have are movie Transformers. But I will keep those and keep playing with them because the transformations are sick as fuck. But looking at this guy, he gets the pass. I really like him, and I'm really glad that I wound up going to get past the version that had the trailer with it. There wasn't really much to that, and I wasn't really looking to spend another $50 on accessories to complete the trailer so that it looked more like the original one. This is a great figure by itself. I'm not a huge fan of the trailer that goes with it, and I'm really glad that I got this guy as well. So, you know, if that's your bag, I definitely recommend picking him up, especially if you liked the Siege figure. They're great together, and as much as I really don't like getting duplicates of the same kind of figure, I only probably have 4 Optimus Primes right now, between the Titans Return figures, the, let me think, Combiner Wars, yeah, I've got the Combiner Wars one. Yeah, so about 4. That's it. The smaller version that was this big from Titans Return, I actually wound up selling because that just wasn't a great Optimus figure. It was a cool concept, especially for what was it? The Astro Train? No, it wasn't Astro Train. Some other guy. Anyway, it wasn't great. I got rid of it. This guy, I'm going to keep this guy. He's fantastic. I strongly recommend you get him. And that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope that you like and subscribe. And if you have any comments, please leave them. If you're looking for anything else, I'd love to review stuff for you. But I'm going to keep going. I said before that I was going to wind up doing the Computron review, but I've been struggling with how to get that all together. So I'll have it soon for you. I strongly feel about that figure, and I'd like to tell you more about it. But for now, have a good rest of your week. Stay safe. I'll see you next time.